I remember one of my first calls for service. It was to the crime of road hockey in progress. Edmonton Dispatch calls up and says that kids were playing hockey on the road and they had blocked it off. So I was pretty excited. Finally, I get to go to a call on my own. So now you got to see this, you got to picture this. I'm in the fancy blue and white police car. Now, in that car is a big gaping hole in the dash because they had taken out the air conditioning and the AM/FM radio of these new cars at Post Garage out of Edmonton because at that time they didn't want us to be too comfortable or to be listening to the radio while we were working. So I had gone and bought one of the biggest boom boxes known to mankind, seat-belted it to the passenger seat of the police car, rolled down the windows of this car, and off I went, lights and siren, to the first crime that I got to go to on my own. As I come up to the crime in progress where the kids are playing hockey, you have to imagine this police car coming into a four-wheel drift with the lights and sirens still on. I turn off the siren, I leave the rock and roll music blaring. As I get out of the car, put on my official Mountie hat. Now these kids are all standing there and they're shaking in their boots as I march up to them. And I go, "You guys are busted. I gotcha." And they look at me and I said, "You know, I got two ways I can go on this." And then I started to, and I had it memorized, all the provincial statute crimes or laws that they had broken. I started to dictate to them what all the tickets and what all these different offenses they had committed were. And I said, "So I can either write you all these tickets or do you got an extra stick?" And one of the kids says, "Pardon?" And I go, "Do you have an extra hockey stick?" "Are you kidding?" And I go, "No." "Well, we got an extra goalie stick." Now they were playing hockey, road hockey, but they didn't have goalie on each side. So they give me the goalie stick. So I throw off my official Mountie hat. I have the street blocked off with the police car with the lights still on, the music blaring away. And they put me in net. Now, I don't know if you've ever played road hockey or seen road hockey, but do you know those orange rubber balls that they use? Do you know how they hurt? For 20 minutes, the kids were taking slap shots at me. It was a one-way game against the cop in net. And they were having a hoot. It wasn't any fun for me. That was before we had bulletproof vests and any other type of protective gear. So I'm taking these shots, and these boys are just having a laugh. But after that, they said, "Okay, you can come out of the net now. Now you can play with us." So I continued to play hockey with them for about another 30 minutes. And during that 30 minutes is when I started to connect with these boys. And they started to connect with me. They started asking questions like, "Hey, how many people have you shot? Can I see your gun? How long do you go to jail for if you're caught smoking a joint? You know, hey, can I drink and drive?" You know, they were asking silly questions. But in fact, they started to ask a few other questions about where I was from and, you know, what was it like to be a police officer. And near the end of this hockey match, they actually opened up to me and said, "Well, you know, we're part of the 1st Lac-La-Biche Scout troop, and we don't have a leader. Would you be our leader?" Now, I had gone through Cubs, but I had not made it through the scouting movement, so I'm pretty hesitant. And I go, "Well, I don't know nothing about being a scout leader, so let me think about it." Anyways, at that moment in time, during that official crime that was not, is when I found my passion, when I found my voice, when I found why I got into public service and to the job that I wanted to be in. I want you to think about that right now. For you, what is your passion? What drove you to where you moved to in the federal government, to where you're at today? And what is it? What is that burning, igniting passion and desire that you have, that you want, that brought you to where you're at? For me, it was about making a difference. It was about service. Because last time I checked, we're all public servants, right? And it was about a way of helping, which I think, and I could agree, we'd all agree, that's what it's all about for all of us. So I'm feeling really good about myself when I leave that hockey match and leave the boys to continue hockey. I made some friends, and I found the true passion in a job that sometimes gets pretty tough and demanding. Well, the next day I'm in the office doing my paperwork up, and the sergeant calls me into his office. He says, "Constable Clapham, can you come into my office?" So I come into his office, I'm standing at attention. He says, "Do you know why you're here?" And I said, "Because you want to introduce me to your daughter, Leona." She was really hot. She was legal. And I said, because you want to introduce me to your daughter? Well, his face goes beet red. And he goes, Constable Clapham, if you so much as look at my daughter, you'll be transferred so far north, you'll know what it's like to have no sunlight 24 hours a day. And then he goes into the tirade regarding my breach of the RCMP Act of, instead of responding and dealing with the crime, the issue, the problem reported in progress, instead I broke every rule known to the RCMP Act by connecting with those kids. And it was the actual man who called up Edmonton Dispatch to make the complaint who made the complaint against me. So here I am getting chewed out for the very burning passion that drove me to where I wanted to be. So the boys, I became the Boy Scout leader. And it was really challenging because as I'm learning how to tie knots better than them, we're meeting on Friday nights for pizza at the local pizza, Tar's Pizza Joint. Because I'm thinking, well, it's better to have them at the pizza place and out roaming the streets, right? Makes sense. And maybe I can be one of those mentors and coaches because we know it takes 3 to 5 caring adults to raise a young person today. Let me say that again. It takes 3 to 5 caring adults to raise a young person. And with the changes in the families these days, sometimes all of us have to step up to the plate. Well, it's costing me a lot of money for this pizza every Friday. So this is where I started getting a little innovative in being a leader, where I said to the boys, you know, this is costing me a lot of money, and I wasn't getting paid all that well at the time. Any ideas on how we can raise some funds for our scout troop? And one of the boys says, well, how about we sell Halloween insurance? I go, well, what's that about? He says, it was coming up close to Halloween. He says, well, we go around to every house and we ask for $2, $2. And if their house gets egged, or if someone comes around with toilet paper and wraps it around their car, or their windows get soaked, we'll clean it up the next day. Okay, and what about those that don't buy insurance? The boys say, well, they're on their own. So I'm thinking about this. I mentioned it to my trainer, and he says, Ward, he says, that's extortion. I go, no, it's not, it's insurance. This came up from the boys. This bubbled up from my team. So I says, let's do it. So we only raised about $200. Interesting enough, everybody that bought insurance that year, guess what happened? Nothing. Those that didn't buy insurance? Now I told the boys, don't you dare. You tell your friends, don't you dare. Well, 28 years later, I'm talking to a reporter here just a few months ago on the Lac La Biche, and it's still a tradition, Halloween insurance. So when you think about innovation and creativity, I know that's a little bit of an extreme. But you know, sometimes just starting to ask, because times are getting tough for us now, aren't they? Now, I'm not suggesting you sell insurance out of the business you're in now, but we have to start asking ourselves, you know, what is it